Vancouver. To the untrained eye, it gleams like a city of dreams. Towering glass skyscrapers reflecting the morning sun, streets lined with sleek luxury cars, and corners that shimmer with promise. Known as Hollywood North, it stands as a beacon of opportunity, a hub for global industry, and a symbol of prosperity. Yet beneath this polished surface, the city hums a quieter, far more fragile song. A song of struggle, of survival, and of human lives too often overlooked. This is the Vancouver that rarely makes headlines, a city most tourists, and even many residents, walk through without noticing. And it is here, along narrow alleyways and at the edges of parks, that life flickers in fragile rhythms between hope and despair, where the heartbeat of the city aligns with the quiet, relentless pulse of those without shelter. Walking these streets at dawn, the contrast is almost jarring. Sunlight spills across gleaming condos, casting long shadows over tents and makeshift shelters. The air carries the faint scent of rain-soaked tarps, human presence, and lingering desperation, blending into an atmosphere both raw and intimate. This is the reality captured in any honest homeless documentary. It is neither sensationalized nor abstract. It is lived. It is unvarnished. It demands to be seen. Every tent, every discarded sleeping bag, every pair of weary eyes staring into the distance tells a story of displacement, fractured systems, and human resilience, struggling to survive against overwhelming odds. Numbers and names. Statistics are cold. Rows of numbers fill reports and spreadsheets, but they cannot speak the names of those who sleep on sidewalks, beneath bridges, or in the sparse corners of city parks. And yet, even in their detachment, they hint at the scale of the crisis. In March 2025, surveys recorded thousands without a home across Greater Vancouver, with hundreds trapped in the city's core itself. But each number is more than a statistic. It is a person. Someone who remembers the warmth of a proper bed, the comfort of a favorite chair, a melody that once lifted their spirits, a meal that once brought them joy. Now, every night becomes a negotiation with cold, hunger, and vulnerability, each moment measured in breaths and steps rather than hours or minutes. This is what makes a homeless documentary truly human. It is not about the numbers, but about the faces behind them. Faces etched with hardship, eyes that carry memory and pain, hands that clutch a small bundle of belongings as if it were a treasure chest holding the last fragments of dignity. Someone counts the distance they can walk before exhaustion collapses their body. Someone else carefully monitors the few possessions they can protect. Following their paths, witnessing their lives, we begin to grasp the texture of existence in Vancouver's shadows. Fragmented, tense, precarious, yet stubbornly resilient. Every step, every quiet act of survival is a story, and these stories demand to be seen, heard, and remembered. Downtown East Side, Vancouver's concentrated struggle. No account of Vancouver's homeless crisis is complete without turning to the Downtown East Side, or DTES. Just east of the glimmering downtown core, this neighborhood bears the city's most visible and relentless struggles. Here, the streets are simultaneously a lifeline and a battlefield. Along Hastings and Main, SRO hotels, shelters, meal programs, libraries, and overdose prevention sites cluster within blocks, forming a patchwork of support amid chaos. Their very presence tells a story. These are the places where need is at its peak, and yet, even here, the resources barely scratch the surface of the crisis. Encampments rise and fall with the whims of the weather and the city's enforcement policies. When cleared, they reappear elsewhere, along the lanes of Crab Park, behind boarded-up shops, or under bridges where the wind cuts through coats and the nights stretch long and unforgiving. Residents cycle between precarious rooms and nights exposed to the elements, while outreach teams race from one overdose to the next, conduct wellness checks, and respond to fires sparked in desperation or accident. Every street corner holds a story. The first time someone collapsed from an overdose, the frantic return of paramedics, neighbors watching, waiting, holding on to hope. The streets here are cruel, unyielding, yet pulsing with life. To walk through DTES is to step into a living, breathing homeless documentary, one that captures struggle, resilience, and the tenuous threads of survival in every shadowed doorway and rain-slicked alley. Survival and the temptation of drugs. On Vancouver streets, substance use is rarely an act of rebellion. It is survival. When rain soaks through thin jackets and sleep comes only in fragmented, anxious bursts, people reach for anything that steadies their trembling hands, warms a chest chilled by the night, or numbs the mind weighed down by exhaustion and fear. Nicotine, stimulants, opioids, they become tools of survival, crude triage for bodies and minds under constant siege. The drug supply is unpredictable and too often lethal. Fentanyl, laced with xylazine, drags bodies into deep sedation, slows breathing to a dangerous crawl, and leaves collapse only a heartbeat away. The line between coping and death is razor thin, and it is crossed silently, too frequently. Amid this harsh reality, safe consumption sites offer glimmers of reprieve. A clean dose, administered under watchful eyes, a moment of medical observation, a fragile chance to survive one more day. These are small miracles on streets where death often lurks around every corner. Witness dosing, mobile teams, and supervised spaces become the pulse of life, the heartbeat that keeps people tethered to hope. Each intervention, each carefully delivered dose is a quiet victory against a system that frequently overlooks the most vulnerable. In these moments, Vancouver streets are transformed into living, breathing scenes of what a homeless documentary truly represents. Intimate, raw, human, and urgent, demanding that we see the lives behind the struggle and the courage woven into everyday survival. The physical toll, long-term substance use, chronic malnutrition, and constant exposure to the elements combine to create cascading health crises among Vancouver's unhoused population. Methamphetamine eats away at teeth and gums, leaving mouths fractured, decayed, and painfully inflamed. Opioid use, especially when compounded by toxic adulterants, slows the nervous system to dangerous levels, leaving bodies sluggish, vulnerable, and at constant risk of collapse. Wounds fester unchecked, infections spread rapidly, and untreated trauma, both physical and psychological, magnifies the suffering. Sleep is fragmented, pain is relentless, and each day becomes a grueling exercise in endurance, where simply surviving the hours from dawn to dusk demands extraordinary resilience. Our responsible homeless documentary does not flinch from these realities. It captures the grim consequences of systemic neglect, revealing the cruelty of a society that allows a toxic, unregulated drug supply to collide with homelessness, hunger, and untreated health needs. These outcomes are not moral failings or lapses in character. They are predictable results of structural inequities and inadequate safety nets, the fallout of a city failing to protect its most vulnerable. The stories of pain and resilience are not abstract statistics. They are human lives pressed against the unforgiving edges of survival, demanding recognition, empathy, and urgent action. Root of causes. Vancouver's homelessness crisis does not begin on the streets. It begins in kitchens and living rooms, at small tables where families tally rent against groceries, wages against bills, and dreams against reality. Here, the math of survival is unforgiving. A single missed shift, an unexpected medical bill, or a sudden rent hike can shatter the fragile balance, pushing someone from a home into the streets overnight. Housing costs continue to climb while wages lag behind, and the city's supply of affordable homes struggles to keep pace. Zoning restrictions, soaring construction costs, and years of underbuilding have left vacancy rates painfully low, leaving thousands on the edge of displacement. The crisis is layered with historical and systemic inequities. Indigenous populations are disproportionately affected, bearing the weight of centuries of marginalization and intergenerational trauma that continue to shape access to housing and social services. Migrants from other parts of British Columbia arrive hoping for a milder climate or better support, only to discover that shelters are full and supportive housing is scarce. Ordinary setbacks, missed paychecks, medical emergencies, or bureaucratic delays accumulate into nights spent outdoors, where waiting, hoping, and surviving become daily routines. Vancouver's streets tell the story of a system that punishes misfortune and neglects the ordinary struggles of those living on the edge, making survival itself an act of quiet, relentless courage. Community and nonprofits. Amid the despair that blankets Vancouver streets, there are beacons of hope, small lights that pierce the darkness. At 2 a.m., Covenant House welcomes frightened youth with hot cocoa, a safe space, and a quiet reassurance that, at least for this moment, they are not alone. Down the street, Union Gospel Mission transforms simple breakfasts into moments of dignity, nourishment, and purpose, where a hot meal becomes a lifeline and a listening ear becomes a source of courage. Meanwhile, nurses with the PHS Community Services Society kneel beside those shivering through withdrawal, offering calm words, medical care, and the promise of support for another day. These organizations are more than service providers. They are lifelines. They are living proof that human connection can alter life's trajectory, that compassion can ripple through the cracks left by systemic neglect. This is what a homeless documentary strives to capture. Not only the suffering, but also the resilience, the quiet victories, and the acts of care that rarely make headlines. Every name remembered, every hand held, every reassuring glance becomes an act of defiance against indifference. Every warm meal, every safe bed, every moment of recognition declares that life, even on the margins, is valuable and worth preserving. In their work, hope is not abstract. It is tangible, present in each interaction, and relentless in its insistence that no one should be invisible. Proposed solutions. Vancouver does not need slogans. It needs doors that lock, lights that turn on, and support that stays. Tangible measures that turn survival into stability. Housing first programs, paired with around-the-clock care, provide more than shelter. They provide a foundation for hope. Hotels and SROs can be repurposed, modular homes erected on public land, and nonprofit housing projects fast-tracked so that keys are delivered faster than meetings are held. Every new unit should be coupled with mobile primary care, mental health support, and addiction medicine, ensuring that no one's journey towards stability is interrupted by untreated illness or bureaucratic barriers. Prevention programs are equally vital. Emergency move-in funds, tenant legal assistance, and eviction diversion programs act as a safety net, catching households before a minor setback becomes a night on the streets. Drug toxicity can be confronted with both compassion and pragmatism. Supervised consumption spaces, low barrier access to treatment, and rapid entry into recovery programs save lives daily. Daily dignity is restored through hygiene hubs, laundry facilities, secure storage for personal belongings, peer-led outreach, and Indigenous-governed services that acknowledge historical inequities while offering tangible support. The real measure of success is not found in meetings or policy statements. It is found in lives saved, treatment initiated and completed, and funerals that never need to be held. Each key handed over, each shower provided, each person guided from street to shelter is a triumph. In a city of contrasts, these practical, human-centered solutions turn despair into possibility and transform Vancouver's streets from scenes of crisis into landscapes of resilience and hope, innovations and progress. Vancouver is beginning to turn a corner. Build Now projects are cutting through red tape, delivering housing faster, and shrinking the gap between need and access. Bridge programs support residents in maintaining sobriety while they wait for permanent keys, offering stability in moments that might otherwise be filled with uncertainty. Mobile health teams patrol streets block by block, connecting with those who have long been invisible, bringing care, check-ins, and a steady presence to spaces where hope can feel distant. Success here is not measured in headlines or press releases. It is measured in fewer emergency room visits, fewer preventable deaths, and a city where the word shelter regains its true meaning. A safe, warm place to rest, not a temporary mat on a gym floor. Every intervention, Every key handed over, every bed occupied, is a quiet act of hope, a lifeline that reclaims dignity and possibility. In these moments, a homeless documentary transcends mere footage or storytelling. It becomes a call to action, urging viewers to see, truly see, the humanity and resilience of each person living on the street. It insists that these lives matter, that these stories must be witnessed, and that our response, compassionate, practical, and persistent, can change outcomes in profound, measurable ways. Conclusion: the crisis in Vancouver is not a passing storm. It is the result of years of systemic neglect, soaring housing costs, painfully low vacancy rates, untreated trauma, and a toxic, unpredictable drug supply. Yet, within the same city lies the capacity for innovation, compassion, and effective intervention. Supportive housing, low barrier treatment programs, indoor supervised health spaces, and consistent empathetic outreach are not abstract ideals. They are practical solutions that can change lives, restore dignity, and prevent death. Vancouver can be more than beautiful. It can be just. Success is measured not in skyline views or headlines, but in nights safely slept indoors, in lives preserved from harm, and in the quiet reclamation of human dignity. Through storytelling, empathy, and action, we have the power to awaken the conscience of those who watch, to move beyond awareness toward real, meaningful change. This is the essence of a homeless documentary: to capture these lives fully, vividly, and without compromise, transforming statistics into human faces, struggles into stories, and despair into calls for compassion and justice. Vancouver's silent streets carry a lesson for all of us. Awareness may ignite the spark, but action is the fire that can warm a city that has long been too cold for too many. This homeless documentary is not just a story. It is a call to ensure that no life goes unseen, that every night can be safe, and that every person, regardless of circumstance, is recognized and valued. To witness, to care, and to act is to honor the humanity that persists, even in the shadows.